Okay, so now we should be in record mode here. So we've ticked the scholarly peer-reviewed journals box, and we have unchecked catalog and full text box. So you can see we still have an awful lot of journals there. We have almost 150,000 articles. Now, I'm going to look at this publication date. I do not know why it's going back all the way to 10/13, but clearly that's not very helpful to us. So I'm going to pull that all the way up here and at least get it closer to our time period. And when it's set that far back like that, it often can take a couple of times to set this up. So maybe we want to look at the last 5 or 10 years. Yeah, we'll go to 2014. Okay, so 94,000 is still too many articles. So at this point, I probably also want to set my language preference. That might help eliminate a few more. And certainly if you can read multiple languages, go for it here. I'm just going to set it at English because that's what I'm able to read and that's what will help me best. So we're down to 85,000. So at this point, we probably need another search term, right? Because we still have too many and we've put in a very, very general search topic. Does anybody have a suggestion for another search term we could put in here?
At-risk youth.
Okay. Okay, so you can see it's actually pulled up a number of other suggestions here too. And so I want you to be aware that when it pulls up these suggestions, these are other searchers' suggestions, not the database's suggestions. So they may not be perfect, but these are keywords that other people have come up with. And you can see number 2 is a really good example of how we use the or to broaden out our search. So we've got at-risk youth or high-risk youth or disadvantaged youth or urban youth. So what we've got are synonyms of the same idea, same words and phrases. And when you put them together with the word or in between, that opens up your search and it searches for all of those keywords in one go. So if you're not finding very much material and you've just put in one term, that's another way to go. I'm just going to leave that for now and let's do our search and we'll see what it does. Okay, so we've got 172. And you can see the first couple there on the screen were finding information about teaching in other countries. We're also finding some information on higher ed. So maybe the higher ed stuff is not that helpful, right? Maybe we're looking at middle school, high school. Let's do middle school. And this is where I can use my or junior high school. We'll do that search there. Sorry, the cat wants into a closet. Okay, so that has really limited things down. We've got 13 articles. It's telling me it's removed the exact duplicates. So we've got 13 articles, but you can tell from how we've done our search and what we've seen come up as suggested words that maybe, you know, we want to give the search engine another try after we look at these, right? Because there's lots of other keywords we might be using and that we could try using. And that's actually part of the research process. You do some searching, then we can look, for example, at words that might be in the articles. If one of these articles looks really helpful, maybe we see some keywords. So social emotional learning, maybe we want to try that as a phrase. We also have subject headings here. And so we can see it's highlighting what's matched there. So we've got teaching and the word risk in at-risk students. And if you notice how it's spelled, it has the hyphen in there, and I didn't put a hyphen in, which is why it didn't pick up the at. So that's a clue for a spelling change that I should make. Maybe when I redo my search, that might help. So it's handy to look at what the database uses as the subject headings or the keywords, because you might find some different words or some better words that fit what you're searching for. And as you start to do some reading, you may again find more keywords or narrow your concepts down. And so you may have to come back again. So that just points to the iterative process of doing this work. So something else I want you to see is that we have the HTML file and PDF file on the first one. So that means we've got the full text of the article right there in 2 formats. We've also got the full text from the ERIC database. If I click on that, so this takes me directly over to something that's in the ERIC database. That's one of the education databases. You can see we have an abstract, we have a good group of keywords here. And if I can move us down there for a minute, so you can see it's saying it's peer reviewed, so that's helpful. And then you've got a download option. One of the things I wanted to point out about the ERIC documents is that this particular one is only 23 pages, but before you hit that download button, just look at the number of pages, because sometimes there's whole books in here that are 700 plus pages long. And so before you start to download something that's really big, just check that and make sure that's actually what you want to do. So that's related just to the ERIC database. So we have a lot of full text here. On number 3, you can see we have this green Get It button. Does anybody know what that does? Have you seen that before? Seeing some no's. Okay, let's click on it and we'll see what happens. Give it a minute. Okay, so this is our connector page, and what it's doing is it's showing me that this article is actually available in the Springer Link database. So if I click on that link, that should take us right over to the article. And you can see we've got the option to download the PDF right there. It's a nice big button. We have an abstract, so we can do a quick look at the summary, or you can actually look at the whole article on the screen before you download. And then it's got the article broken up into pieces as well, so you can look at the separate pieces. So many of the platforms will look a little bit different, but they provide similar functions and features. We also, on most of the platforms, have Cite This Article. And so what that does is it helps us to figure out, and I'm just looking to see if it's showing me what's the citation style here. It should be showing me the citation style. That's interesting. Usually you get a choice, and of course we want to use APA 7th edition for our citation style. Looking at this to see, does that look like APA to you? It doesn't to me. So what you can do in this case, you can download it or you can cut and paste it. And when we talk about the citation information further, we'll talk about reference management systems. So we'll hold off on that, but there are good reasons for wanting to capture this information. So you may find a lot of different platforms as you're traveling through, and that's okay. Many of these features, the download, capturing citations, being able to read on the screen and so on. Most of those features are readily available here. So I'm going to back up. We'll close those out. So that's what our green Get It button does. So you can see we have a pretty big range. Some of the articles are right there and some are not. So then I might want to come back and try some other keywords, see if I can find some more articles. Is online teaching even really the right phrase? Are we really thinking about the students and their online learning, or are we thinking about our ability to teach online, right? Maybe we're confusing that, and maybe we need to think more broadly, and it can be helpful to brainstorm and write down some of the keywords as you think about things. Are there any questions about searching the giant database? When I say giant, I mean it has 300 databases plus the library catalog. So it's got a lot of material. Kim?
Carolyn, do you have a list of all the best education databases to be using?
Well, I'm going to show you that next, if you can just hang on a sec. So when you're searching this giant database, as Kim has asked, you're clearly not just searching the education databases, right? Because there's 300. So there's all kinds of different subject areas. So just a quick check to see if there's any more questions about this database before we move along. No? Okay. So I'm going to go to Library Home. And if I go, see this menu in the pale green up at the top, we have subject guides. And then if I scroll down a little bit to the right, I have the education block here, and I have education guides and education databases. Now, if you happen to know which database you want, you can click on that. And as Kim pointed out, maybe you're not sure. So let's go to the education guides, and I'll show you how you can find the names of all those databases. You can see on the left-hand side here, we have a whole range of different education guides. Some are for specific classes. I'm going to go to the Education Research Guide, which is the guide that was built for the MES classes. And I'm going to scroll down, and hopefully this will answer Kim's question. So under the green menus there, we have education-specific databases. And we have links to all of the education databases here separately. So if your preference is to go into each one separately, this might be a good option. You can look at each database and maybe not be as overwhelmed as you would be by searching the giant database. Then we have kind of an in-between solution here. We've got something called the Education Multi-Database Search from ProQuest, and that includes the Australian Education Index, the CBCA database, which is where all of the Canadian education journals are. And then we have the Education Database and ERIC. If I click on that, oh, we've got somebody waiting to join us. Okay. So now we're in the Education Multi-Database Search. And instead of the basic search, I'm going to go to the advanced search. So it looks similar to the page we were on previously. And I'm just going to type in leadership. Oh, yeah, let's try this one. Leadership and inclusive education. And there's lots of ways to limit right here on this screen. The only thing that I think is really important right now is that we mark the peer reviewed box. We can do some adjusting later. So if I search all dates, I can limit that later on in my search results. So I got over 1,200 hits there, so that's a lot. So maybe I want to change the language. Yeah, that only knocks out a few, but it helps a bit. It's searching currently on relevance. Maybe I want just the last 5 years. Maybe that will be a more manageable list. Oh, that's still a lot, 511. So then maybe I want to go back out and we can find our search engine right here. I can just go straight back to my search, add another row, and let's try plugging in Canada. And now we have 91 results. That's not so bad. You can continue to add more search terms in there if you want to narrow it down. But let's take a look at our results. So you'll notice this first one has full text and full text PDF. The next one has full text. We probably have some that have the green get it button. There it is. So lots of access to full text. If I want to see my subject headings, you want to just open the abstract and there's your summary, and then there's my list of keywords, and you can see that it's picking up different keywords besides the ones that I've added in here. And if they're useful at all, then you can make use of them for your searching. You've got a full text link over here, full text PDF there. Sometimes I've seen the get it link right over here. So it seems to be in different spots. And then in other cases, you also have the full text of the article right there on the page below the abstract. So you're not going to see everything looking exactly the same. But up at the top corner, you should always have these options to download, to get your citation. You can email and print, and then there's other options right here. So if I go to cite, so you can see it's giving me, this time it's definitely giving me APA 7th edition. It's showing me that. And then it's asking me which program do I want to move it into. The library used to subscribe to RefWorks. We do not anymore. A lot of these other programs like EndNote and Mendeley, Zotero, those are all available free online. And so we have chosen to move in that direction because a lot of people were using those anyway. And don't forget, your professors are going to want you to be learning the APA style anyway. So even if you capture that and you think it looks okay, you're going to want to double check that once you're putting your citations all together in your reference list. That will be important. So we'll look at a few APA resources in a bit. Are there any questions about this multi-database search tool? No, I'm not seeing any questions. I think we have somebody, a new person in the room here. So really, I've shown you 3 different ways to approach this. You can tackle the great big giant database. You can look at this much smaller database, but that searches across all the education databases for you. Or you can look at the separate education databases one at a time. And that's entirely up to you, you know, how you like to search and how much information you can kind of deal with at one time. One of my colleagues had been teaching this search tool, the education search tool, regularly to the undergrad students, and I hadn't been teaching it previously, so I thought we would give that a try over the summer. I really wanted you to get comfortable using that. And I have put that in the library resources block over here in your e-class. It's the first thing on the list here. I just did a very brief, like maybe 6 or 7 minutes video just on how to use that search engine, in case you need a quick run through on that. Candace is psyched. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a few minutes. Any last questions about the multi-database search tool before we go on here? Nope. Okay. So we're going to come back to our search guide here. This is our education research guide. So you can see there's all kinds of other materials on here that you can browse as you have time. If you're learning about research methods and you either need to read up on some methods so you can do your research, or part of the class is focused on methods, then the research methods database is a really good place to go. And there's video, there are books, there are journals, data sets, podcasts, there's all different kinds of information there. And then you can see we've got this menu of things. So if you're working on an annotated bibliography, we've got that there. We scroll down, we've got a link to our citation and reference management information. So that's one way you can get to the APA information. I'm going to show you another way just so that you can see the multiple ways here. So I'm going to go back to my subject guide. And if you look on the right-hand side of this page, you can see we have guides organized by type instead of by topic. So I'm going to look at citation and reference management. So this is taking us to exactly the same place as the link on your education research guide. Now, has anybody heard about the reference management tools before? Is that brand new to you? Some of you are saying yes. Okay, I think almost everybody says yes. So let's open this link, and it's going to take us to a page that will give us a little bit of background and then help us maybe choose the management software we want. One of the advantages, well, there are several advantages to using reference management software. What they do is allow you to collect and store your references and the articles that you found as you're doing your work, and you can store them all in the one place. If you start using the storage that's available in each of the separate databases, the problem with that is that you might have a few articles here, a few articles over there, and then maybe you forget or you lose track of them. Or maybe, you've used a database that you don't remember at all, and then those articles get missed. So this is a way to, as you go, collect up your work and the material that will be helpful for you when you go to write your paper. And then you can use one of these software programs, and they are generally free. Now, if I scroll down a bit here, you can see we've kind of given you the features of these different databases, so you can look at them and think about them, decide what works for you. You will see that there is a costs line here. The EndNote version that we have access to is very basic. There is a student price here available if you want to pay, but I don't think you should need to pay for anything. There's also upgrades to storage costs on these other two, but really, I don't think you're going to need that much space for your assignments over the course of your program. So you shouldn't have to spend any money on this, but each of these things works on different computers. Do they have a cloud? Right here, it's saying doesn't work on one of the Mac versions. So you need to kind of look at what you have available to you and what will work best here. The one that I've used most out of all of these is Zotero. It's quite easy to use, and it allows you to download a bookmarker so that while you're traveling around the web, you can actually just press the bookmark button and it will capture the web page or the article for you and put it right into your Zotero files, so you can go back and look at that later. So it's very handy. The reason for using this and starting out, I'm not sure where all of you are in your program, but if you're getting started in either the certificate program or the MES program, it's particularly handy because then you can keep everything in the reference management software to go back to at any time through your program. So it can be helpful in that way, since I know when you're going through the whole MES program, you know, you do a research project, a small research project, and then it grows as time goes on in your program. So very useful tool. There might be a bit of a learning curve at the beginning, and we are happy to help with getting you started on it. I am not a power user of any of them, but the different programs have videos available on the web. Often they're on YouTube. They'll have a YouTube site with good instructional videos. So either way, we can help you get set up and then help you find those materials to help you learn how to use these. So it's up to you how you choose to do it. I had a professor earlier today, I was working with his class, and he had apparently this morning talked to the students about just using a Google Doc as a way of keeping track of everything. Some people I've seen use a spreadsheet, right? So there's lots of different ways people can choose to keep track of things. The reference management software has the advantage of, you know, helping you to create a bibliography or references list and that sort of thing. So that's why you want to be capturing those citations if you can. It saves you the trouble of, at the end of your paper, spending a whole evening typing up your list of references. Now, if I go back to our citation information, you can also see on the left, we have another green menu, and we have APA as the second one. So APA is the citation style that's used in education. It's from the American Psychological Association. And there are tons of different resources on this page, as well as links here. I'm just going to point to a couple that were created by librarians from U of A, and you can explore on your own the rest. So what we have here is kind of a quick guide that distills some of the key information you need to know about how to do APA citation, so that you don't necessarily have to go buy that big fat manual that the APA likes to publish. There are copies of it available in the libraries, and now that all the libraries are open, you know, those are definitely available if you're in town and need to see how to cite something that's not on this page. But what we start out with is talking about the components, whether you use the URL or the DOI or digital object identifier. Then it talks about how to do the author's names for a reference list and for in-text citations. And then we have several pages of samples of different kinds of sources. So journal article with DOI, journal article with no DOI, and so on. And continues on, you've got newspapers and magazines, books, ebooks, chapters, and so on. And then at the end, if you want to see a sample reference list, we've got a sample one there just for you to get a look at. So this is just really meant as a quick reference. If you have a more complicated source you need to cite, then you might need the reference manual, but you can check that out from the libraries. So you don't necessarily need to go to the bookstore and buy that. So then the other thing that we have available to you is an APA style citation tutorial. Now there's a second tutorial here. I'm going to point you to the first one because it was written and designed by one of my colleagues, Debbie. And we have a table of contents, and it just talks about why you need to cite, the different kinds of sources you might cite. And then, as you can see, as we get into the citation information, we've got some activities you can do. So you need to do the reading first, but after you do the reading, then there are some activities, things you can look at, and then it asks you a question and you can answer that, and then you can check to see if your answer is correct or not. And if it's not correct, then you can have another shot at it. And if you look at this, say this week, and then at the end of your course, before you're working on your citations, maybe you want to run through this again, and it's available to do that. This site is free and open. It's available to you at any time. You can even share it with other people if you think it's useful. And so this is meant really as a learning tool, and you can work on that. We're not going to try to work with that now because I don't think we have enough class time, but that's a tool that we have built for you. Are there any questions about the APA sources? Just trying to keep an eye on our time here. Okay, so there's tons of other resources here that you can take a look at, and then there's a link, and we've got the call number right there. And so there are multiple copies across all the libraries of the actual handbook. Now, one of the other things I want to show is we have this Ask Us button. If I go to the Ask Us page, we have a number of different ways you can reach us. One of the questions that came up in the class I did earlier this afternoon was, what if I'm not finding enough information on my chosen research topic? What do I do then? And so that's a good time to book a research consultation with either me or one of the other education librarians. My colleague Denis is around this week, and then he goes on vacation, and Kim is back from vacation next week. So if I get really swamped with requests for consultations like I did last year, you might meet one of my colleagues. You can book a consultation either by just going to this general form, or in your eClass page, I have actually given you a link to my contact information. So you can email me. If I'm not available to meet with you, I'll forward information along to one of my colleagues, and they'll be able to work with you, but that's how you want to reach us. One little caveat, sometimes I'm on campus, sometimes I'm working at home. You can see there isn't a phone number there anyway, so the best way to get me is on email, and then we can either do a meeting online, or if you want to be on campus, I can arrange for that as well. So that's up to you. Your course is online, isn't it? This summer, are some of you not in Edmonton? Are you located around the province? Yep. Okay, I've got a few people. Yeah, so your best way to reach me then would be email, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Then if you have a sort of a simpler question, like, gee, Carolyn mentioned how to search for books, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time on that. I have no idea how do I find a book I need. I really need an ebook version of it too, because I'm not on campus. That's a good kind of question to enter in here. You can see we've got this little available sign. So that means that there's staff currently working. And if you scroll down, you can see the hours when the chat service is functioning. So most weekdays it's open till 5:30. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's only open till 4:30. And it's opens a little bit later on the weekends too. So you can use the chat. You can also email, phone, text. There's lots of different ways to reach the staff. If you ask a question that's too complicated, like this student asked me earlier, I've got this research topic and I'm not finding anything help. That's when they would probably contact one of the education librarians and say, hey, this student needs a meeting, they need some help. And it, typically it will take sometimes half an hour, sometimes up to an hour. It just depends on how much help you need. I try to book, roughly around an hour. We'll see how busy it gets. But I think if you have a question that seems fairly straightforward to answer, then probably chatting with the staff or calling the staff is a good way to get that answered quickly. I know you're on a short timeline, and if I'm busy with other students or teaching, I don't want you to be waiting for help. So, a couple of hours could make a difference in how much you get done in a day. So check here, and if they can't answer you, they'll give you a referral over. But if it's a complicated question around your search topic and search words and all of that, then that would be a good time to go ahead and book a consultation. So lots of ways to find help. If I go back over to your e-class here, we also have the Ask Us button right here at the very bottom of the library box. And then I have put a few other quick links just to help you out. So you've got the education research subject guide, and I've also given you the robotics and computational thinking guide. We have a research and writing page, so I've given you that one, and then we've got those two APA pages I showed you, and then we've got links to the basic big search engine and just a direct link to all of the subject guides. So this stuff is here, so you've got some quick access, but don't forget there's lots more information right on the library homepage as well. Are there questions? Okay, I had a question earlier today that I'll throw out at you. So do you know what you do if you come across a reference? Let's say you've read an article and then you've looked at those citations and there's an article there that you want, and you have checked the U of A library. Let's see, we'll go over here. So you've checked and we don't have the e-journal. What do you know what your next step might be? Anybody want to give it a guess? Okay, so we have a service called Interlibrary Loan. If I go to Library Services and then Interlibrary Loan, then I will log in with my CCID. And what this does is it allows us to help you track down information that's held in other libraries. So we have these sharing agreements. So if there's an article that I need, I just click on the article form, and I need to put in as much information as I have about the article. It might not seem like it, but there are so many journals that have similar names, and sometimes it can get confusing. So as much information, especially including the page numbers, that can be helpful. And then we will, as quickly as the staff is able to, we will be able to try to track down an article for you or a book that you need. Obviously, with the articles, because they can be sent electronically, there can be a pretty fast turnover time. Just keep in mind that if the staff is busy because there's lots of people doing interlibrary loans, then you can't be guaranteed you'll get it in a couple of days. Although my experience has been often that there's a pretty quick turnaround time, at least on the articles. So just keep in mind and think about your managing your time, since you're in a shorter course session, whether that's useful or not to order something that might have to come from somewhere else. If it's a key article or a very important article, then you probably should order it, and just hope that it will get here in time. And usually with the articles, they will. With the books, of course, they have to ship them by regular mail, so that may be a bit more complex to get those on time. So we are able to track down things for you that aren't in our library, but just think about the time and your own time management when you're looking at that. So that's what interlibrary loan is all about. And I got there by going to library services and then interlibrary loan. And you can see on this page, of course, we have a lot of different library services available. And if you don't see what you need, that's a good time to ask us a question. And there are a few quick links here. So if you know the database you want, if you want to just go to Google Scholar, the handy thing about using this Google Scholar button is that your let's go just search education. You get these direct links to the articles. So that can be helpful and handy. Oh, I see I've got a chat. Okay, so Kim has to head out. So just keep in mind, the Google Scholar link is there, and we just go back. Lost our homepage there for a second. You've also got a quick link right here to your citations and reference management. You need to book study space. And then if your professor has a reading list set up, you can use this as well. And if you happen to be in Edmonton, we'll hope that the Rutherford Library reopens tomorrow and that it will be available as study space if you need it. Are there any questions? I think we've lost at least one person from the group. This up. Just going to leave the screen up for a second in case anybody has questions and we need to be looking at things. So you've already had a long class day, have you? You've had a full day. Did Mike keep you busy today? Yes, seeing some yeses. Okay, so I don't expect you to necessarily remember everything that we've covered in this session. Just keep in mind, there's lots of help available, and just ask us for help sooner rather than later. You're in a short course, and so the sooner you get help, the sooner you'll be able to move along to the next step to do whatever it is you need to do. And we don't expect you to remember everything. So don't be afraid to ask a question, even if it seems silly. As far as we're concerned, there isn't a silly question, right? If you don't remember or you've never seen something before, how can you know? So, reach out. We'll be happy to work with you and I'll look forward to seeing you, and probably it sounds like I'll see you online rather than in person. And that's fine. I'm happy with either one. So last call for questions.
Thank you for your time and everything.
Oh, no problem.
Yes, thank you so much. This was very informative.
Good, good. I'm glad. And I'm happy
So
to help.
that we don't have any questions, so you did a great job.
Well, thank you. So this is the last class I have scheduled to teach this week. I've taught similar classes with all the education students multiple times this week. So tomorrow I'm moving on to starting some consultations. So reach out if you need a meeting, and just let me know if you need more help, and I'll be happy to set up a meeting with you. Okay, bye everybody. Have a good night.